Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to start your home buying process today. Company on MLS ID number 1464766. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your Director of Fun and Games for the afternoon. Joining me today with Charlie O'Connor en route to the draft in Vegas at the Sphere, we have the star of the Anthony Gargano show. It is JP Zapata. Good to see you again, JP. Haven't been on air in a little bit.
I know, man. So good to be back. So good to be talking hockey, especially after what happened this morning with basketball. I'm so over basketball for the rest of the week. I'm excited to talk about hockey. Michkov's got me excited, brother.
I am too, man. This is weird because we just did this, but there was a technical issue. But, like, I thought it was a good opening, so we're just going to do it again, and I'm going to pretend it isn't weird for me to repeat myself. But, like, I got a tweet last night that was like, oh, man, what is Morey doing, this and that? The Knicks just got Bridges. I was like, dude, I don't have it in me.
Right.
Like, I have this ridiculous, dysfunctional hockey team that I have to focus on. I have to talk about them 6 hours a week. It's hard to be all in on all 4 or 5 teams, and the Sixers are my distant fourth. Like, God bless you if you can like be all in with all 4 or 5. That takes a lot out of you. Yeah. And this is Philly. It's not like this is Boston where it's like, oh well, like someone's gonna win a championship probably, or like everyone, shit doesn't go well here a lot.
Yeah.
So well, we do have the Phils, but no, it's an exciting time right now to be a Flyers fan, JP, and it's something we started talking about over the last couple of days when the Michkov news, built, and then it was, oh yeah, he's coming. This is the biggest Flyers story in a long time.
It is, man.
I believe I don't want to compare him to Lindros because Lindros was the next one. And he was that good. And he came in right away. It was amazing. Won an MVP, I think, year 2. Like, if it not for the concussions, he probably is the next one. Mm-hmm. Michkov won't be that. It's impossible to expect something like that out of... a guy, he wasn't, that's just not who he is. He's still a superstar. You can still win with Nikita Kucherov,
Yes, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. But, just this excitement that we have, there hasn't been a guy, like Nolan Patrick, we were told right away, like, listen, no, he's going to be like a good 2C for you. Mm-hmm. This is the team is better, but you didn't get a superstar here.
Right.
And like Claude Giroux, that was fun, but it just kind of happened. And they picked him in the 20s. Bobby Clark forgot his name when he went up to draft him. Like, it was just a weird, like, all right, he's good. And then he was here. It's like, oh, shit, he's real good.
Yeah.
There was no, like, hype, really. And JVR, it was like, all right, well, you're not Patrick Kane. We don't like you. So all of that. And, like, this is our first, like, really hyped prospect in a while. And there is some, everyone saw the Sealski article and people dunked on that and whatever. And I do think it's important to, like, temper the expectations right away. Mm-hmm. Like, if this kid comes in and he's 70, 80-point player right away, dope. But if he's not, that doesn't mean he's a bust.
Right.
Like, he turns 20 in December. What were you doing at 20? Because I'll tell you, I didn't have shit figured out. This kid's going to be playing in the NHL.
Yeah.
19 years old, he's going to make his debut. Like, I do think there need to be maybe more realistic expectations for what we're going to see, especially right away. Mm-hmm. But the excitement isn't even like, oh, we're winning the cup. No one thinks that. No one with half of a brain thinks that the Flyers are winning the cup next season.
Right.
But it's something to actually be excited about. And for the first time, it's like I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is this star player that we so desperately need, and he's here. He's not over in the KHL and we're waking up early to watch his games and watching the highlights on Twitter and shit. It's something actually like tangible. He will be here. We will get to watch him play.
Yeah, dude.
That is very exciting. And I really just thought, like, this is the biggest story since when? So I went back.
Man, this rabbit hole's not fun.
And I wanted to get your opinion on this because you're a bit of a younger fan.
Yeah.
And, like, for people who are younger than, like, at least I saw some of Lindros. I was cognizant for most of his time with the Flyers. I was a kid. But like 97, what am I, 8, 9 years old? Like, at least I can remember it. Someone younger than me, I'm like, why the hell are you a Flyers fan? You've done nothing but shit. Like, they've been to what, 2 cups since 1988? Like, that's my whole lifetime.
Yeah.
And someone younger than me, they haven't even seen the good years. So I just wanted, like, as a younger fan, JP, like, This is the biggest story since when, and how are you feeling about Michkov?
Oh, first off, I mean, Michkov, it's exciting. And I think you nailed it on the head, brother. Like, with the Michkov news, it's an array of sunshine, right? Like, this organization, like we're about to go with, and we're about to talk about in a couple of minutes. Like, there's been a lot that's bad that's happened with this team
over like the last 14 years.
Yes, yeah. Imagine like you were born in 2011 and you're a Flyers fan. You were inherited into this world, right? Your dad, your grandpa, your uncles, everyone's just Flyers fans, and this is a team you have to root for. You don't know anything. Like, I think the one thing you can hold your hat on is probably the bubble year.
Exactly.
And that one was rough too.
They lost game 7.
To the Isles.
Oh, okay. All right. That was something at least. They got to the second round.
I mean, for me personally, Bill, like in my teens, they were good. They were consistently good. They were consistently making the playoffs. We didn't win anything, but we had the 2010 year to kind of hold our hats on. My 20s is when they were just bad. They were just terrible. So now my hope is in my 30s with Michkov is being, and the thing is like I don't think anyone's expecting Michkov to be the Connor McDavid, but I think he can be one of the faces of this league, especially when you're supposed to be the cornerstone of this franchise. And the Flyers are still a very well-respected organization throughout the NHL. I think just that alone, it's just a bright spot in his own. But I mean, dude, like if I look back at the last 14 years, I mean, just more bad than good.
I did. Last night I put together this list of the biggest Flyers stories since 2010. And just off the bat, I'm going to tell you, Carter Hart situation, not on this list.
Yeah.
Because, listen, that's a huge story and it's a huge deal. But to put that on the same list as, like, the reveal of Gritty, I thought, like, was inappropriate, honestly.
Yeah, so, you're right.
Listen, we know about the Carter Hart situation, but this is everything else. Biggest Flyers story since 2010. And just to flash the graphics, like, we don't need to go through every single one, but, you know, I capped this, I bookended this list. The first thing I put on there, May 6, 2010, Flyers signed Sergei Bobrovsky. And spoiler alert, the last thing on this list is Bobrovsky's Panthers win the Cup. His backup goalie is a guy we got in return in the Bobrovsky trade. Like, we drafted him with one of the picks that we got for Bob. And Nick Cousins is on that team too, part of the Carter trade.
What was painful
just
was Nasty Settlemeyer from the Nasty Knuckles podcast. Great podcast, by the way, for Flyers fans. Well, he posted the pics with Bob when he was the what was he? He was like the equipment manager, right?
Yeah,
with the Flyers, and he's posting pics of him very young with Bob, and it was like, oh my God, he was actually in orange and black.
Yeah, man, it happened in that rookie year. Like, he wins that first game in his NHL debut, 29 saves against the Pens, goes on to put up a .915 save percentage. They win the Atlantic Division. Like, when's the last time the Flyers won the division? Dude, like, that happened with a rookie goalie winning you 28 games. Like, the Bob stuff, that's 14 years ago at this point. You know, like, that's when that happened. And it all leads to, you know, getting Ilya Bryzgalov and then the Richards and Carter trades. We know how all that ended. There is a good thing in there. The signing of Jágr.
Yeah,
like, that was, when I was going through this list, like, I almost forgot about it. I was like, oh, you know what? That was a great day.
Claude's best line mate.
Maybe. Like, honestly.
in Philly.
Yeah. That year, I mean, it's one of Claude's best years. And, like, I think Jágr had a lot to do with Giroux's development. I think he had a ton to do with Jake Voracek's development. Like, the Flyers got Jake in the Carter trade because it was like, oh, he's kind of disappointment since we drafted him. And then he became a point-a-game player. Like, he was right there with G. But, like, yeah, I thought Jágr, it's fun. He's a legend, and he was gone for 3 years, and then he came back to the Flyers, you know, the rival. He was one of the guys who tortured us for years. Like, that was just a cool moment.
For sure.
But we also were like, okay, we know he's 37, right? Like, we're not getting 26-year-old Jágr. And we're not getting the MVP. But that was, like, of the 2011 stuff, that was an actually good moment. Like, that one was pretty cool. And then you move on through the years, like, the 2012 one. Like, after June 11th, 2012, after acquiring Jeff Carter at the trade deadline, reuniting him with Mike Richards, the Kings win the Stanley Cup. And that's going to be a running theme throughout this list and of things with this team. I know sometimes we look so much back with rose-colored glasses at these guys who, like, went on to win elsewhere.
Yes.
But goddamn, man, when you haven't won since 1975 and you have these players in-house and can't quite figure it out, and then they go on to win somewhere else. Like, that does hurt. Like, I was very happy for Richards and Carter, and I was at this time, 2012, 2014, wearing a Kings hat until they got rid of Paul Holmgren.
Oh, my God.
I was like, I think it was to the 2014 year. I was like, until they get rid of Paul Holmgren, I'm going to be wearing the Kings hat. And that's, we go back to the Briz signing. It's like, how did these things work out? Bobrovsky won a Vezina in Columbus, and 2 years into a 9-year, $51 million contract, Brizgalov gets bought out. We're going to be paying him through 2026, 27.
Oh, God.
He's just
still
hanging out.
Paid.
Yeah, when he was, I think he was on an AHL stint before he came back up into the league after the buyout. He took all his teammates out to dinner, said, "This is on the Flyers, boys." And it was just like, man, we had the Russian goalie. The wrong one, though.
That mistake was humongous.
Absolutely. But eventually, Ron Hextall is named the Flyers general manager, and good things start to happen. Like, Shane Gostisbehere.
Were you optimistic when they hired Ronnie as a GM? Okay.
Yeah, because I liked, they said he had everything to do with, like, the development of, the Kings core and all that. Like, he was integral in that. And, okay, that's what we need. We need someone who can build up this young core. And his plan made sense to me at first. Because, like, it's something we hadn't done. And he did say, like, okay, we're not going to go out and spend crazy and try to compete for the cup every year. But then you look back and realize they didn't go all the way, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you needed to tear that thing down. And they just didn't. I wonder if it was Ed Snyder. I wonder if it was Comcast just being like, no. It seemed like a half measure at the time. You can compare it to this plan. I think they just have a better grasp. Ron Hextall's drafts were mostly disastrous. Like, that's
true.
That's why it didn't work. Like, German Rubtsov, Pascal LeBurge. Like, these things were disasters. Jay O'Brien. Like, we're getting a comp pick because Jay O'Brien ain't ever going to play in the NHL. Like, just shit went wrong under Ron Hextall.
And Hextall was his coach.
In the beginning, things were like Gostisbehere when he won the national title with Union, and then his, of course, Richards and Carter win their second cup shortly after that. But, like, they bring up Ghost. He has the crazy rookie year. Good stuff. We think something's happening, and not really. And you look back at some of the trades we made, like, oh, yeah, we traded JVR for Luke Shen. Oh, we have to dump him with Vinny LeCavalier to get Jordan Wheel in a third. Like, just like, oh, yeah, all these trades really worked out. Just like this, the theme of this is just things we think that are going to go well that just absolutely freaking crash and burn. Like, we don't need to go through every item. Most of you listening lived through all this.
Already went through this pain to begin with.
We don't need to rehash it all, but we remember Nolan Patrick. I mean, winning that lottery was huge.
I was so pumped.
That draft party, our very first one. Make sure you come out Friday for our 7th draft party at CHICKIE'S in South Philly. But our first one was 2017 at Smith's. Place was absolutely packed. Devils make their pick. All of a sudden, the whole bar is chanting Nolan Patrick. I couldn't hear. We're doing a live show. I'm like, I think they made the pick. I don't know. It was just so cool. We know how that worked out.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great day in my career. Everything after that sucked.
I did want Nolan Patrick over Nico Hischier to begin with.
I was a Hischier guy. I just kept reading about Hischier, and I just thought he was cool. Like, he skateboards and, like, plays soccer and other sports. I was like, this is fun. He just seems like a cooler guy to me. But it's not like we had a choice. Devils were picking one.
Yeah.
It was what it was.
They knew too.
You just go through all this, like, another fun day, I guess, all the way in 2018. Gritty revealed, like, that was something.
We were all like, what the F is this?
Yeah. 2 months after Gritty is revealed, GM Ron Hextall is fired. That was quite a day.
Yeah.
And when they brought in Chuck Fletcher, I will say, I had hope for one reason. They started treating us like we weren't the insane ones. They're like, no, Andrew McDonald does suck, and they bought him out. Like, they waived Yuri Laterra. They called up Carter Hart. We're like, these are all obvious moves. And they refused to do them for whatever reason, then eventually fired Dave Haxtell, also an obvious move. Mm-hmm. It was, okay, so I'm not insane. Chuck Fletcher at least has a grasp on this stuff. And he made some good moves. He had the one good offseason, I thought. It led to a couple of good years, but ultimately, like, it all shit out.
Yeah.
And my favorite one, like the Ryan Ellis trade. Okay, man, we got out of the Nolan Patrick thing. Phil Myers didn't work out.
We got the next.
We got Ryan Ellis. Cool, man.
Got the next Niskanen for
Yeah,
overall.
this is going to work.
Yeah.
November 13th, 2021, Ryan Ellis records an assist in his 4th and final game as a Flyer.
That was in Dallas, right?
Like, Jesus, man. Like, Giroux, his 1000th game, and trading Giroux, hiring Torts, I guess, was a fun day because, like, we all saw it coming, but it's John Tortorella. It's fun, even if it's sometimes really ridiculous. And it's just firing Chuck Fletcher, drafting Cutter Gauthier. Those things were fun. Then, Cutter Gauthier gets traded because he don't want to play here. It was fun. Oh, man, we got the 5th overall pick. I'm watching those World Juniors this past, December, January. Like, this is going to be our guy. Nah, they traded him like 3 days later.
Yeah,
like it
came out of nowhere.
A long list of shit, and it all ends with Sergei Bobrovsky's Florida Panthers, along with backup Anthony Stolarz, who the Flyers drafted with one of the picks they got in return for Bob, win the Stanley Cup.
You know what's painful about that? And to the Kings,
Nick Cousins also on that team.
And to the Kings' point as well, too, is like, dude, our guys go to these organizations who have been bad for so
Berube and
long.
Shen.
Yeah, the Blues one too. The Kings were like literally like they had the Gretzky days in the early 90s, right? The Florida Panthers has been a doormat for their existence. And these guys win championships with these teams, man.
I think all three were the team's first The Kings, it was their first cup. The Blues, I think, was their first one.
Which is crazy.
And Florida, it's definitely their first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Like, it's insane.
The team that hasn't won in 50 years is stocking the league with their first cups.
Great.
Maybe everyone.
Fan base.
I think there's 10 teams left that haven't won. And maybe everyone has to get one before the Flyers can go back. Being the first expansion team to win one, maybe now everyone has to get one. So
it's like when we were
Seattle, let's get moving here.
We did the same thing with the Eagles before 2017.
Yeah.
We were like, now Seattle just won a freaking Super Bowl. Oh my God.
I put this list together not to depress our audience, JP, but just to say we fucking deserve something to celebrate.
Yes.
Flyers fans, man, if you have stuck with this team, and my God, if you're watching this show every day, thank you so much.
Yes.
I don't know how in this era of Flyers hockey I have been able to turn talking into this team into like a successful career. It's fucking insane to me because like, thank you for being great fans. Anyone who ever questions Flyers fans, like you can't. I'm not even the team. I'm a guy who yells about the team. And
because you went through the pain as everyone else
There's
did.
enough interest still, despite 14 years of bullshit. Like, there's enough interest to drive this can exist.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much, Flyers fans. We deserve this.
Yes.
We deserve Michkov coming over, and we deserve to celebrate it.
Yeah.
We deserve to be excited.
Yeah.
It's just been so long. Everything, even the things we got to celebrate, like Nolan Patrick and Ryan Ellis, all this shit, it all turned bad. Yeah. Sergei Bobrovsky, oh, that was fun. Yeah, it was for a year. Yeah. That was a great year, though. It was fun.
Well, I'm always going to compare this to like the process years because like obviously we're rebuilding. We're hoping that we get all these assets, all these young players that can hopefully, unlike the Sixers, bring us to a championship. But like, with Michkov, like, dude, like this whole time, like I'm following Hockey News Hub and constantly, refreshing his page.
Love you, Hockey News Hub.
Yeah, seeing if he's got any news on Michkov, watching all those highlights on Twitter, like every little thing that any of our prospects, even like the guys in London, like I'm just watching and just seeing it, and I have these visions in my head of hopefully we can hoist the Stanley Cup or at least go through a couple playoff runs because that's fun, Bill. Playoff runs are so fun, man. It's
just every year I watch that cup get presented, and like I just love it because hockey's awesome and the Stanley Cup rules and how much it means to them. They put their bodies on the line for this thing. Like you think about Matt Tkachuk last year playing with a broken sternum. Like his brother has to get him out of bed and dress him in the morning, and somehow he's going out there and playing NHL Stanley Cup hockey. Like it pays off. It's a year later, but he gets the reward for but part of me is always just like, God damn it, when's it going to be my time? When do I get to feel this for my team? Hopefully it's not another 50 years, JP. Hopefully it is sooner than later, and Michkov is the turning point for this organization. Again, I don't think it's right away. I don't even know if he wins the Calder this year. I'm hoping he's a finalist. Like he should be in the conversation because when he flashes, I hope it's hard.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's just the sign that things might actually change. because they haven't in so long. We've been through coaches, we've been through GMs, we've been through captains. We've been through an aggressive retool or two. We draft picks, the hope, goalies. And here we are back at square one, and we think we finally have the guy.
You know what I'm excited for? Is Michkov's first game at the Wells Fargo Center. Bill, that place is going to be sold out, and it's going to be like a playoff-like atmosphere.
And it's funny you mention that, because at the draft party, one of the things we're going to be raffling off is a opening night tickets for this coming, I guess it'll be October, Wells Fargo Center. Our guy Vince is hooking us up. You're going to be in a club box. It's one of the many items you might be able to walk away with if you come to our draft party at South Philly Chickies.
Be there
on Friday. That's this Friday, June 28th. Starts at 6. We're going to do a live show, giveaways, raffles, free food, I think drink specials, gritty. Going to be a good time.
Yeah,
going to be a real good time. Before we move on to the mailbag portion of today's show, I got to tell you about our friends at Alipop. Alipop is the world's first functional soda with a classic soda taste and the benefits of plant-based fiber, prebiotics, and other botanical ingredients to support gut health. Alipop is a new kind of soda with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar in every can, plus 9 grams of fiber in every can. 2 out of every 3 Americans say they suffer from digestive issues, and 95% of Americans don't get the daily recommended amount of fiber. Alipop is tackling both these issues with a drink that tastes just like soda. Prebiotic fiber is the food source for the beneficial probiotic bacteria in your gut, and Alipop has 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can that can help support your digestive health. Where do you get it? Well, it's available online at drinkalipop.com and in almost 30,000 retailers nationwide, including their launch at Wawa, where you can get the classic root beer and the strawberry vanilla. I'm telling you, man, don't sleep on strawberry vanilla with tequila. I'm just telling you, it's a tremendous summer drink. You can also get it at Amazon or in one of any 30,000 retailers nationwide, including Wawa, Target, Sprouts, Wegmans, ShopRite, and GoPuff. But me personally, I'd go to drinkalipop.com. Put in promo code PHLY20. Get 20% off my first order. Discount only applies to one-time orders, not to subscriptions. Like I said, you can also get it in Amazon and all the aforementioned retailers.
I may or may not have had a little tiny bit of Hennessy before the show on the Anthony Gargano show with the lemon lime Alipop.
All right,
dude, that was not a Hennessy guy since high school, but that was very smooth.
So I was looking up Flyer shirts just because I was bored last night, and I saw an old Yager shirt and with the Jaeger font, and I was like, oh man. I drank so much Jaeger in high school and probably freshman year of college. And now I look at the font and I'm like, my stomach hurts.
Yeah.
All right. It is now time for our mailbag portion of today's show. I opened it up to questions because everyone basically wants to talk about Matvei Michkov. We have some other stuff too.
Yeah.
But people have specific questions they want to ask about Michkov, and we're here to answer them for you. So we're going to lead it off with a question from @NewFlyersFan. He asked, I feel like I see people comparing Michkov to Lindros, at least in levels of talent and hype. As far as skill set goes, is there a past or present Flyer that you think he's most similar to?
Okay.
I reached out to our friend, boots on the ground, one of our European scouts, Alex Appleyard, who helps Charlie out with the diehard content from time to time, writes great scouting reports, great in the draft. And I reached out and just asked, like, hey, man, you're far better suited to answer this question than me. And his response was interesting because it's a comparison I made yesterday talking about the power play. It's Mark Recchi. Mark Recchi, probably a little tougher of a player, and that's the era he played in where you had to be, especially at that size.
Exactly.
But his puck skill, things like that, he thinks compares very favorably to Recchi. And man, Recchi was awesome. And the thing I compared yesterday with was how they ran the power play, like out of the corner and behind the net with Recchi. I want to do that with Michkov, and it looks like I was on the right track.
Yeah. I mean, Lindros, listen, he was a physical specimen.
He was a bulldozer.
Yeah. And when looking at Michkov, obviously we need to watch him up close and personal. But watching Michkov, you definitely can tell like he's got a skill set, right? Like he's great with the stick. Where you talk about, improving that power play as well. Like I feel like he's got that shot, right? Like he can create some offense on his own. Eric Lindros, when he was out there, I mean, like you said, bulldozing over everyone, just a physical
I mean, he
specimen.
loses his stick and can handle the puck in his skates in the corner for a whole shift. Like, he was one of the most skilled players. There's not enough to say about Eric Lindros. And if Michkov isn't that, you can still go to the Hall of Fame and not be close to Eric Lindros. You know, there's levels to this thing. But I did like the Recchi comparison just in terms of the skill set, how he handles the puck, his IQ and everything like that. Tougher along the boards than you'd expect. So I dug that comparison. And for my power play purposes and serving the please set up the power play behind the net agenda I've had for 10 years, the goalie can't see you. Yeah. If he turns his head, now he can't see everyone in front of him. It's very easy to trick the goalie. It drives me nuts. But anyway, hopefully Michkov brings this and Rocky Thompson can figure this very simple thing out.
Rocky. Well, what's going to happen if Michkov starts trying the Michigan?
I can't wait. I cannot wait for his first Michigan attempt. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah. He better score.
Oh, yeah,
if he tries it and doesn't score and has to go back to the bench, like
Torts is famous, like eye roll.
You know, I know we paint Torts as this like dinosaur, but he does have some progressive ideas on just like the positionless hockey, having his defensemen be more roamers. I mean, they put in an offensive system this past season for the Mad Russian. Like he said it, like, hey, we're going to have that guy at some point or another, and we're going to need to be able to maximize his skill set. So this year it was like all about fast breaks. He seems a little more progressive hockey-wise than we give him credit for. That said, like we played the clip a couple of shows ago after the Trevor Zegras alley-oop Michigan to Sonny Milano, and he was like, I just don't think it's a hockey play.
I think the benching stuff just is what irritates the fan base.
Sure. He did bench Konechny the first year, I think at least once or twice. Just like there was a third period, I think against the Sharks, where he was like him and Kevin Hayes didn't play.
Right.
And obviously we know how it worked out with Kevin Hayes. Had to get rid of him. But he's grown to love TK. Like so I think the attitude that Michkov plays with, that he just carries himself with, and is overall just like, this team doesn't have very many good players, and we need to score sometimes. I think it's going to be a little less rocky with Torts than people are expecting. There will be drama, but I don't think it's going to be Morgan Frost level where he gets scratched 10 times in the first half of the season.
Yeah, and also good point to mention too. I mean, Michkov, from everything we've seen, I mean, the skill set on that kid is going to be greater than what Torts has seen in Philadelphia for sure.
All right, let's get to the next question here. One of our pretty consistent contributors on Mailbag Days, Paul with the great car ideas. Says, what do you see in Michkov's raw skill that you are confident will translate immediately, and what do you think will take time to develop? For example, do you think he'll be able to run the power play? Obviously, he's an unfinished product, but what do you think will pop right away? I think the
not run a power play, but be a big contributor.
It'll be interesting to see how they have it set up, who he's out there with and everything, but I could see him being the primary puck handler on the power play, behind the net, moving around in the bumper, moving behind the net, distributing to shooters, like at the dots. I think he could do that pretty well. The thing I think is going to translate right away, and it's because of what I just talked about, the system they set up last year, where it's, yeah, man, block a shot, get your head up, and serve an outlet pass. Like, that's his game. That's Michkov's game right there. He blows the zone, maybe a little early sometimes, but that's part of our system. And then you're on a breakaway, you're on a 2-on-1, and then we'll see the hockey IQ where he's able to break down a defenseman and beat a goalie.
Curious what you think. I'm wondering how he will translate with the physicality of the league. He still needs to fill out his own body himself.
Yeah, that's just being he's going to be a teenager when he debuts. He doesn't have his man body yet. Like, that's just
right.
He's still a child.
Didn't he just start lifting weights too? Like 2
years
ago or
he's
something like
just
that?
basically figured out weightlifting. Like I do think that's going to be. I've seen him battle through contact behind the net and along the boards and KHL clips and stuff I've seen of him, but this is the NHL. Everyone's real good and real strong. Yeah. So I think that will probably be just the full well-roundedness of his game. And something I remember criticizing Travis Konechny for back in the day, and now it's hilarious to think about. Took him a while to really find his shot.
Okay.
I was back then. I was like, dude, I just don't know if he has an NHL shot. He can't beat a goalie.
Yeah.
And now he's consistent 30 goal scorer. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But
ripping shots.
maybe it'll take a little bit of time for him to adjust to the level of goaltending in the NHL and just how good everyone's stick is, getting in the lanes, taking away your opportunity. But I think the fast break part of his game is what's going to translate right away.
Sir Fish is interesting comparison. He compares Michkov to a modern Pavel Bure. Maybe not as fast.
Yeah, I was going to say
this.
When I think Bure, I just think of that blazing speed. And it's not like Michkov's slow. Everyone except Connor McDavid is slow compared to Pavel Bure, you know? But like I don't think he has that speed, but I think utilizes his skill in the same way. Like you don't need to be able to just beat a defenseman one-on-one with your speed to have successful rushes, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if we can get one more in here before the next read. Thank you, Paul. Let's go to JMU fan. Is there something specific that will determine whether Michkov's skill will translate to the NHL? In other words, what keeps him from being the next Matvei Yakupov and just not translating? This was a tough one. I really had to think about this, and I really think it's just up to the player. And I don't know Matvei Yakupov as a person or anything, but I just think it's going to be, one, everyone believes him to just be better. Like, that was a bad draft year for Yakupov. It wasn't a great pick, and he was a bust. It happens.
Yeah.
But I just think it's the amount of work he's going to put in and how much the Flyers are able to develop his full rest of his game.
Yeah.
Like, how much freedom they give him to just be an offensive wizard, and then you got to do the little things, too, so we can give you 18, 20 minutes a game rather than 14. Like, that's, to me, what's going to determine if he reaches his, star, all-star, superstar, whatever ceiling you think he might have, is he's got to be able to do enough of the other stuff to warrant the maybe 20 minutes a night.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen, we don't know Michkov as a person. One of the big things I remember from Nolan Patrick was the immaturity. Like, he just wasn't there yet mentally. And so we'll see with Michkov. But I mean, Michkov's skill set, what we've seen so far, that gives us that optimism. We're just going to have to wait and see what he does. And Gary B's got a super chat there.
Oh, let's get to that super chat from Gary B.
That gets us excited.
Michkov sets up TK for a shorty in game one.
Yeah, man. Let's go.
If they have him on the PK game one, that will be that will mean he had an awesome camp and John Tortorella really likes him.
Yeah,
like
dude.
it's a responsibility, man. It is, and especially on this team where the penalty kill was like the strength of the team. That was the number one thing they did well. Like, if you looked at everything they did, they had a little run there when Ayrson was turning it on and before Carter Hart, was charged. They had that run where they were getting excellent goaltending. But the thing they did at an elite level where it's like, okay, how do they compete with good teams? They do this thing better than anyone, was the penalty kill.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just curious, though. Like, if Michkov meets all expectations at camp, do you want him on the PK?
There's so many guys I want to see out there. I want Owen Tippett to play the penalty kill.
Yeah.
I want him to utilize that speed. Yep. Like, the guy who does beat defenders and just blow past everyone, what happens when he blocks the shot high at the point? Like, it's a breakaway every time.
Yeah.
One-on-ones, he turns into breakaways because he's so freaking fast. I would like to, and amazing shot, really good goal scorer. Would like to see if he can kind of do what Travis Konechny did and add that element to his game.
Good point.
Michkov, I'm just expecting him to listen. If he's on your first line at 5-on-5 and he's running your top power play, he's got to not play at some point. Like, I don't think we're giving him 25 minutes a game like he's Shea Weber or something. He's still a 19-year-old right winger.
Yeah.
So maybe one day, but it's not on my priority list.
Yeah. I agree.
All right. Before we get to the next question, JP.
Okay.
Why don't you tell me about Rite Aid?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Let's talk real quick about our friends over at Rite Aid, guys. Listen, after this morning, what I saw with the Sixers, I need to go to Rite Aid because I need some headache medication because my head right now is going to explode with this NBA offseason, all right? But Rite Aid is our spot for everything we need as far as pharmacy services go. And some of the things that you can expect from Rite Aid here. With a My Pharmacy account at Rite Aid, you can refill your prescriptions, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations, sign up for prescription notifications. All you need to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. Get started today at riteaid.com/mypharmacy. Stop stressing about your prescriptions, guys. Let Rite Aid refill them automatically. Enroll in automated courtesy refills. It's free, easy, and most prescriptions qualify. Talk with your Rite Aid pharmacist today, or you can sign up through my pharmacy account at riteaid.com. Restrictions do apply. Get your prescriptions at the same time with one-trip refills. Ask your pharmacist to sync your medication so you can pick them up with one visit. You can sync with other family members as well, which is pretty cool. Just ask your local Rite Aid pharmacist to get started. And again, restrictions do apply. Manage prescriptions with the Rite Aid mobile app. Transfer or refill your prescriptions. Set up medication reminders. Enroll in prescription notifications. All you got to do is download the app wherever you download apps. If you're Apple, if you have the Android, you got the Play Store, all that good stuff. Transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid you may need, including over-the-counter medications, household products, cosmetics, and much, much more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions do apply. And guys, anything you need, I'm talking about anything you need, Rite Aid always has you covered. Thank you to our friends over at Rite Aid.
I think, that was outstanding, JP. That's nice having someone else do it. We have another one from Gary B. Follow-up. Michkov has too much breakout speed and passing for him not to crack the penalty kill. Now, I think it's a possibility down the line. I just, I don't know how much I want to give the kid right away. You know, like, let's let him be good at the things he's good at, and then add elements as we see fit. It's not like there's the entire team is third and fourth liners. We have plenty of dudes who can kill penalties. Like, that's not the problem.
Right.
Like, that unit is cool. We need the power play to be better. Like, there's a lot of things that Michkov can help. The penalty kill's fine.
Yeah.
You know, one day, sure, absolutely. Maybe you can turn him into a weapon like you have Travis Konechny. I remember when Ilya Kovalchuk was doing it. Like, oh, man, this is a great use of his skill. Yeah. If he just gets his stick on a puck, it's a goal. Like, he's on a breakaway, it's a goal. You know, like, maybe that happens one day. I'm just not like, this isn't my priority 2024.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I feel like you want to prioritize what he can help in, and especially with scoring goals. That's why I would love to see him on the power play, either one of those units, and just skating with the lines, seeing what line he'll fit in best, what line mates he fits in best. But we need those goals, and we're hoping that Michkov can provide much more goals this season.
Yeah, it's just going to need it. Another regular contributor here, one of my favorite names, SG Bunch of Numbers. How does Michkovs presumably bonus... there was a question earlier about RSVP. That was the first question. Never got to this part. About RSVPing to the draft party. That was a New Flyers fan. You don't have to. We like to just get a good head count. You can go to allphly.com, just RSVP. It's free. You don't need a ticket or anything. And it's not like there's going to be bouncers at the door with a list. Like, you're not on the list. But it's just a good way for us to get a head count. Like, there's going to be food and specials and stuff. And just a way for everyone to know what the thing is going to cost. Yeah, But I wouldn't say, like, oh, yeah, if you don't RSVP, you ain't getting in. It's just something management here prefers. Yes. Just to make everything run a little smoother for everybody. But yeah, that was that. Okay, back to SG Bunch of Numbers. First part of his question, how does Michkov's presumably bonus-laden entry-level contract change the cap picture for next season? And that is a great question, because the Flyers right now, and they can create some wiggle room by putting Ryan Ellis on long-term injured reserve so they can drop that, what's he got? $6.25 million. But right now they're up against the cap. They have like $803,000 against available. So just to make the space, they have to figure out some cap stuff, and a lot of it comes off the books this year.
Yeah,
they're gonna Cam Atkinson. If they buy him out, it extends his cap hit a little next year, but dramatically reduces it this year, and then it'll be nothing next year, and then it's off the books. And if they just let his contract expire after this season, that's gone. There's one more year left on Tony D's buyout. The Ryan Johansson situation, we'll see if they're able to buy him out, if he gets healthy, or if they trade him, whatever happens. But there's $4 million you open up. there's going to be some flexibility. And then 2 years from now, Kevin Hayes comes on. Like, while it looks dire, there are going to be a lot of things coming off the books over the next year or two. But they do have to account for this. Because, yeah, his initial cap hit's going to be like $975,000 or something on his ELC.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the bonuses, because it's going to be a ton of bonuses, he's coming over. He's not doing that for free. He could be up to like $3 or $4 million against the cap. It'll carry over to the following season, so it won't kill you. But it is something they're going to have to account for. It's going to take, mostly just getting all this dead money off the books. Cal Peterson, all the guys I mentioned before, and that's just waiting. That's a waiting game. There are going to need to be some other moves made eventually, though, because hopefully after 3 years, it's like, oh yeah, let's give this guy 8 years, $80 million. Hopefully that happens right away. Probably more, like 8 years, $100 million at that point. Like, they are going to need to plan for this, but I don't think the cap situation is quite as dire as it just looks if you go to capfriendly.com and be like, they don't have $1 million, huh? Like, it's a little better than that, and it's going to be cleared up in the next year or
Not
so.
to mention, I mean, we still have a TK
You
extension
have a
coming.
TK extension coming. Cam York's going to need a contract. There are things to plan for, but I think Danny has this under control.
Yeah.
I want to say that now, but I don't know. We haven't really seen him in this situation yet.
Yeah,
like, this is something he's bringing in the money because that's what you do in a rebuild to get more assets.
Right.
Yeah, we'll take Ryan Johansson. We'll take Cal Peterson, whatever. That's good. The next step, though, is like, okay, after you clear out all that dead money, you got to win some negotiations. I think the Owen Tippett contract is fair. It could be surplus value. Like, if he has the 40-goal year next year that we thought he was going to have this year, all of a sudden we're like, oh, yeah, that's a great deal. But as it stands right now, he's a 28-goal scorer.
Yeah.
All right, you're paying about market value for him. Nick Seeler, not a ton of money.
Right.
But it's more than I'm willing to pay him.
Yeah.
Ivan Fedotov. It's a little weird situation. He had to buy out his contract in the KHL, and they're spending so little at the position with Sam Ersson that it's like, all right, but for under $5 million, we have both of our goalies. So let's say it was a little more to Ersson, a little less to Fedotov. What's the difference?
Right.
All right, I can accept that. But this next part with Danny, we'll see. His trades have been good, all that stuff. I liked last year's draft. We'll see about this year's draft, but that next part, it is something they're going to have to account for.
It's cooking now. We'll see, though.
And the second part of SG's question, how should we account for all the Demidov-Michkov comparisons? Is Demidov really that good, or are people just excited by the shiny new object?
I hear a lot about Demidov.
If the Flyers could trade up and get him, I just don't think he's getting out of the top 5. I'd be all for it. The comparisons, I think it's just everyone likes to compare Russian players to Russian players.
Yeah,
that's
they do.
You ask for player comparisons. It's like, oh, who does Michkov remind you of? It's like, oh, Kirill Kaprizov, Sergei Fedorov, like Nikita Kucherov. Like, oh, okay, so we're just naming
Russian players.
Great. I hope that's the case because they're all great.
Yeah.
But like, I just think it's partly that. From what I've heard, people think Michkov has a higher ceiling. He's better. Demidov, that doesn't mean he's not really good. He's a little bigger. I would love to have both. But the comparisons are what they are. If Montreal ends up with Demidov and it's like, oh, well, now we got the defenseman and the Russian, even though everyone killed us for not taking the Russian last year, like, I still think we got the better player. And I am basing this on other people's opinions because I have no fucking idea about Russian prospects, man. Like, I don't know. What do you think? I'm watching the KHL?
Bill's waking up early Saturday morning to watch KHL.
There's other things that go on. I got to watch every Flyers game already. You know?
Cheerios and KHL, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But the comparisons are what they are. Take them with a grain of salt. With any and all player comparisons, always. I'll never forget when Cam York got drafted. And they're like, NHL comparison, Brian Leetch. Like, oh, the best American defenseman ever. Oh, yeah, that's probably fair. Like, oh, sure. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like Michkov's ceiling is like a star player, and Demidov's ceiling seems to be like a really good player.
Yeah. From our boy Bortz, is there any pressure to maximize the entry-level contract years of Michkov's contract now? They had a few years to be able to prep for that. Happy accident, but I'd imagine there's some pivoting that needs to happen. This is one thing, and I won't call it a negative because getting Michkov over at any point, no matter when, is a victory.
Yes.
Like, the reason he fell to 7 is the Russian factor.
Yeah.
And you're just never sure. Even though they always come over, it's always a fear. It's very funny. Like, you have to worry more about college players now than you do Russian players.
Literally.
But my understanding when they drafted him, it was like, okay, we have to wait 3 years. Well, that's kind of awesome, because then we'll have hopefully the best player on our team in his prime on an entry-level contract. And that's kind of the like, oh, yeah, we got Russell Wilson on his rookie deal, so we can have everyone on defense be in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
good point.
we can sign these guys. Like, it is that financial competitive advantage. Now, it's a little different. He's 19, 20, not 22, 23. It's just going to be harder to take advantage of the situation. I do think it makes building the eventual cup contender a little bit more difficult. But if he's a star player, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl just went to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, each making over $10 million. The goalie for the Stanley Cup champion makes $10.5 million. It's doable.
Yeah.
You can do it. Now guys have done it. Oh, no one making 10 has ever done it. Now it's one of the, if you asked anyone 3 years ago about Bob's contract, they'd be like, fuck, that's a bad contract. Like, you know, and now he's a Stanley Cup winning goalie, and he wins
Stanley
making
Cup.
over 10 mil. Like, it's doable. Everyone relax. But I do think, I don't know if there's pressure, because like we just talked about with the cap situation, I don't know how they can maximize. I mean, if Danny is able to figure it out in the next year or two and somehow maximize the last 1 or 2 years of the ELC, awesome. I just don't know if it's doable now, because the plan was set up for the, like, okay, yeah, and in 2026, we're going to have this clear cap. Ah, shit. Well, that's when his contract expires now. Like,
Yeah.
It's just a little bit different of a situation.
But I mean, like, if you look at last year, Bill, I mean, like, even without all that top end talent, I mean, like, dude, we were a couple points away from making the playoffs. So if you add a Michkov and you get some of these young players continue their development, I mean, like, who's to say what's going to happen these next couple of years? I'm not saying Stanley Cup, but I mean, like, pushing for one of those final spots in the playoffs.
All right, that wraps up the, not the mailbag, but just the Michkov portion of this. It was a ton of Matvei questions. We got to them. If your questions weren't featured today, and we have more coming up, you can always just tweet me a question at PHLY_Flyers. I want to do a mailbag question every day. Sometimes we have them, sometimes we don't. But feel free. I'm always for other people coming up with my content. Love it. But before we get to the rest of the mailbag, let me tell you, I want to take a minute to tell you about our friends at Mortgage CS, an independent mortgage broker based right here in Philadelphia. What it means is that they won't steer you to just one mortgage option or to what's best for them. They work for you and not the banks. This is incredibly important because today's real estate market is ultra competitive. Prospective home buyers, perhaps just like you, are missing out on opportunities to win the perfect home because they don't have Mortgage CS in their corner. The mortgage company you choose matters more than ever. Even if you're already in the market, you can still explore your options with Mortgage CS. And if you do, you may be shocked at how much money you can save. Ben and Alec at Mortgage CS will ensure you have a rock-solid pre-approval, and they'll take the time to explore anything you want. That's why Mortgage CS is the mortgage concierge service. The real estate market is competitive, so you can rely on Mortgage CS to help you understand where you can be flexible in your offer to buy a home without taking on unnecessary risks. There's a reason people win more with Mortgage CS, so call or text Ben now at 267-391-7425 and see for yourself. You can also go to mortgagecs.com/PHLY to check them out or view their 370-plus perfect 5-star reviews. Just search Mortgage CS right now. Plug it in the Google machine. Open up another tab. You'll find all these 5-star reviews. I'm not BSing you. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information. All right, where that was Bortz. So now we're at Tutty T88. And this is the first TK question.
TK.
Why do you both, referring to Charlie and I, truly believe that signing TK is a betrayal of the rebuild? We can't strip it of all talent, and if we believe he is on the Marchand trajectory, you have a future captain and 100-point scorer. I really believe he is on that path, and the contract will be a bargain.
So you got to explain it. So I guess you guys said
the first part. We have both said I don't believe it's a disaster. Like it's not a betrayal of the rebuild. I just think, given the current timeline, trading him makes more sense. When they do re-sign Travis Konechny, I am not going to call for the firing of Danny Briere. Like, I just think it makes more sense to trade him and build around the young core you have, and not a 28-year-old who's going to be making $9.5 million. That seems crazy for a guy. Yes, best player on this team right now. Someone has to score. Yeah. And, like, he's never – and I realize Charlie makes the argument, well, like, okay, he's never had a 70-point season or whatever, but, you know, he missed time. That's part of it. He already misses time. Like, to think he's on the Marchand trajectory, maybe. Mm-hmm. Marchand's going to the Hall of Fame, though. Like, that is an outlier. Yeah. That is an outlying situation. To think he could be a 100-point scorer, he has given us no indication that he can be that. Mm-hmm. If it happens, cool. I will be excited that Travis Konechny, homegrown guy, stuck here his whole career, becomes a 100-point scorer. That's not who he is, though. Right now, with the way we think things are going to go, with Michkov playing the right wing on the first line, mm-hmm. Travis Konechny at $9.5 million to be a second-line right wing, to me, is not a good allocation of resources. It's not going to kill them, but like I said, they're going to have to make some tough decisions. This cap situation is going to get complicated. I know it's going up forever and ever. This is the NHL. The CBA is up in a couple of years. You don't think there's going to be, oh man, the cap's going to hit $100 million. No, it fucking isn't. No, it won't. They're going to somehow say, oh, well, yeah, you know, we introduced this new market in Utah, but somehow Arizona cost us money. Like, there's going to be something, man. There's going to be something. It's just, I don't think it's a good allocation of resources. That's all.
I'm more on your thought of line there, because like you just talked about. I mean, you can't just spend $9.5 million for a guy who's probably going to be your second line winger there. As much as I love TK, I'm not crazy about him for the future, especially at that money you're talking about. But I don't want to lose him for nothing either, because I do know he does have value. I mean, like he could be a contributor for a contender as well. So it is going to be an interesting situation as well, and it's a tricky one because, like, you know, obviously he did a lot of great things last year, and he was a big part of last year. I mean, he was your leading scorer, but I mean, we're talking about $9.5 million for this guy.
I know we have to recalibrate with the cap going up. We have to recalibrate what the numbers mean, because it's been so flat for so long. It's like, okay, this number is defined, to this kind of player. It's like, well, it's all going up. You know, like McDavid's contract next one is going to be like 15 plus. Yeah. You know, so we have to kind of put things in a different perspective, but it just seems like an overpay for what is ultimately your second line right wing. That's, but if they do it, and all signs point to they're going to, I don't think it's like, oh, well, they're fucked. Like, I don't think that. I think it becomes harder. Like, it becomes harder to build a Stanley Cup contending team with that sort of contract, but I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah, right. What was the interesting? Like 11 mil they were looking for, AAV?
He asked for like 10. Like, seems like a lot.
Dude, that is a lot. I love TK too, but let's be realistic here. You know?
The one thing I saw today, or maybe last night, was maybe a 6-year term at 9.5. So it's 2 years shorter than the max, and so you give him a little more money for a little less, a little fewer years, so you're not dealing with the back end as much. He is, 28, 29. Like, it's going to be into his 30s, this deal. I guess I understand that a little bit more if it's not 8 years, $9.5 million, but it still is like, that's going to be on the books.
I wonder how much less he would take, though, too. I mean,
I do wonder, like, I'm looking forward to seeing what the number ultimately is.
Yeah.
When I see things like 10, 9.5, it makes me sometimes go, are they just preparing us so that when we see 8.9, we're like, oh, fuck, way to go, Danny. Like, okay, cool. If it's 8.75, we're like, Danny won. So we'll see how it all works out. But, like, I'm not anti-TK. I just think there's better ways to spend the resources. And to think he could be a 100-point scorer, that is very optimistic. I am jealous of your optimism. Like, good for you, man. Let's go to Flyers fan 39 with another TK question. Assuming TK gets paid and no buyouts, what can Danny B realistically do to give us a shot at the playoffs next year? Obviously, that will depend on goalies and health, but given Michkov's arrival, maybe a good short-term depth addition like Walker can get us into contention. What do you think about that, JP?
I mean, the one thing he did bring up that I'm intrigued about is the goalie position. You know, one thing I did say, like, I would like them to bring in a veteran goalkeeper in that room. I'm not sure what Ersson can be exactly in the future, but I did see some things that I did like to give him an opportunity here. And then, of course, you know, just filling out the forwards there. I mean, obviously, I'm curious to see what happens with Cam. You know, if that buyout does happen this year. But obviously, you could use some bodies, especially, you know, I'm curious if they would just take a whim on some of these young players who, you know, may not work in other spots. You bring them in here, you know, continue developing there. But I think that goalie and forwards is really what I'm looking at as far as this upcoming year.
And like the short-term depth addition, if you mean like Walker, like adding a guy like Sean Walker they did last year, maybe that makes a little bit more sense. Or if you mean Walker specifically, I just don't understand why he would do that. I don't think it makes sense for either side. Walker is not young. This is it. This is his chance to go out and get paid. Get the longest deal for the most money you possibly can. That does not make sense for the Flyers at all to give a guy that age that kind of money.
Does he mean like a player like Sean Walker, someone in their 20s, you know, looking for a place that they can just prove themselves? Because listen, what Danny did last year, that was great. You get Sean Walker, Garnet Hathaway was huge as well.
But to me, any additions they make, like short-term stuff, I'm not interested in. If they can make a hockey trade for a player who they can bring in, makes the team better. Like if you have to give up a Farabee or a Brink or Frost or whatever to get a player that fills a need, one of the top 2 center positions or a top pair defenseman, absolutely. But I want it to be a guy who can grow with this core and be part of this thing. I'm not all that interested in short-term depth additions. In terms of the playoffs, it's a nice goal to have. I would like to watch playoff hockey. It's fun.
Yes.
But also they continue to need good players.
Yes.
And the easiest way to get them is in the draft. If they miss the playoffs again, it's not the end of the world. The fate of the 2024-25 Flyers will be on the young players taking another step.
Yes.
It will be on from the back end up. Sam Ersson and Ivan Fedotov, are they better than last year? Jamie Drysdale, Cam York, are they better than last year? Can Travis Sanheim replicate that? Because he's never put together consecutive good seasons. It's why he's won 2 consecutive, or it's why he won 2 different most improved player awards for the team and probably should have won a 3rd this year because he has bad years in between his good ones. Can he be good 2 years in a row? And after that, Frost, Forster, Brink, Tippett, can these guys take another step? The fate of the team is going to be on that. And then, of course, Michkov as well. Does he pop right away? Does he struggle out of the gate? Is his first half kind of meh, and then he turns it on in the second half? Like, that's what this team is going to be about this year. I don't think bringing anyone in would significantly, especially anyone they can afford, would significantly raise their playoff aspects.
All about the long term. We got a super chat from JH here.
Oh, we got another super chat to get to from JH. He says GM Danny Briere was Austin Matthews' favorite offer sheet. I don't think you can offer sheet guys at his. I don't see it happening. We do have a question about offer sheets coming up though. But before that, you know I love offer sheets. You know I'm all about the offer sheet, and if the Flyers want to get back to who they were, man, that's a big part of it. I mean, Chris Gratton, that one actually worked. Was it Ryan Kessler after his rookie year? They tried to offer sheet him.
Yeah.
We all remember Shea Weber. That was a hell of a week. Those 5 days were exciting, man, and then didn't work out. But I just what you have to give up in an offer sheet and what the Flyers have, I just don't know if it makes sense right now. Another super chat here from Dumb Flyers fan. Love it. Please explain to me why the Konechny extension makes sense when they have Tippett, Forster, Michkov, Brink, and Hathaway here at right wing already. Someone else brought up Hathaway to me, and I very much expect him to get traded at the deadline. Like, that's a move.
He's not going to be here for the long term.
I can't imagine. He's not young, and expiring contract, he's the exact type of player a contending team would want. Like, that is the depth addition a playoff team would want to make. I think you could get more than you expect for Garnett Hathaway. But the rest of them, no, that's kind of my thing, is you're pretty well set at this position. Travis Konechny he's a very good player. It's not like they're not going to miss his production, especially in the short term. I just don't want to give him that long-term contract, and trading him could potentially help you fill the holes you have at center and top pair D. That's it. Like, I don't think it makes a ton of sense. I don't think it's the end of the world, but it's not what I would do personally. And we have one more here.
This one's good, dude. Look at this.
Oh, big one. Thank you.
From Florida, dude.
Yeah, all the way from down there. What's the name? I can't read it.
It's like El Susalino, I guess.
LC Salino 28. All right. Well, thank you. Hi, guys. Love the show. It's my first listen every day here in Florida. Thoughts on how Torts will communicate with Michkov? Is a translator necessary for on/off ice coaching, etc.? Fedotov at least speaks some English. I think he's been working on it, and he does have like some conversational, but I wonder about this a lot, and I'm always told, like, yeah, certain things you might need a translator for and stuff, but hockey's an international language.
Yeah,
when he's fucking yelling at him, he's gonna know why.
Yeah,
like if he doesn't work hard on a back check, if he misses his assignment in the D zone, if he turns the puck over at the blue line, he's gonna know he did those things. And when the insane man is yelling, he's going to know why. Like, and also you bring up Fedotov, he's in all likelihood going to be on the bench as the backup a majority of the time this season. Translator. That's going to be big, man. I think that's a big deal.
Unfortunately, when I think of translators in this team, man, I do think of Bob.
Bob. Yeah, guy had a 9-15 rookie year. Girlfriend couldn't get a green card. Dude couldn't get laid. Like, fucking doesn't speak a word of English except his name. Oh, yeah, man. I can't believe his sophomore season. I can't believe in his rookie year he fell apart in the playoffs. They asked him how many games he's played in a row, like max in his career, and he didn't know what to tell them. Like, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. It's probably his fault he fell apart in the playoffs.
I have a lot of confidence that we've evolved from that, guys.
I hope so. Anyway, we move on to a fun question now from Eddie. What would your ideal alternate jersey be? Me personally, I just want so badly the 90s era black jerseys again. Just make that exact jersey. I have a lot of ideas for alternate jerseys because I think the NHL is missing a huge money-making opportunity. The way even baseball's caught on now that you have more uniforms, but the NBA especially. My God, everyone's got 12 uniforms.
Yeah.
Flyers, I think, like, I would love for them to resurrect, even for just a night. Like, hey, remember how shitty these jerseys were? There's like 3D looking video game orange ones, like the shiny silver. Like, I think every team should have 12 jerseys. Yeah. But like, if I had to pick one, it's just go back to the 90s era black ones, man. Those were perfect.
It'd be nice if they could figure out the black jersey because I'm not a big fan of the ones we have right now.
They're okay. They don't do a ton for me. Yeah, like I just make it pop a little more. Like, give me the orange piping, man. Why are they so against piping? When did that just, we have to get rid of this? Like, it's cool. Yeah. But thank you, Eddie, for the
That's a good
question. What would yours be?
I'm with the black. I don't know, like something. It's just tough because obviously like we're orange and black, right? I've always, I've had the idea, like, what about like a highlighter orange?
I
Pop
would
out on the ice.
Like, I would love to do things, as much as I hate the Penguins, I think it's dope that every team in Pittsburgh wears the same colors.
Yeah.
And like, if the Flyers wore Kelly green, like during the Eagles playoffs, that would be sick. Like, I think that would be cool if they just threw that on.
How would you feel about red and blue?
It's the Rangers colors, so it's a little different.
Tough one.
That's like, I think Kelly green is like the easiest way to go. Like the Sixers and Phillies kind of lend themselves more to like Rangers colors.
Yeah.
But if they were to throw out a Kelly green jersey, man, tell me that thing wouldn't fly off the fucking shelves.
That would be sick.
But that's like dumb stuff like that I would try.
Yeah.
But in terms of one alternate, just give me the original blacks. That's it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to Chris Roberts, XYZ. I hope everyone doesn't mind doing a long show today. I don't know if we're going to get to every question, but I'm still feeling it, so let's do it. Chris Roberts, XYZ. The defense, on paper at least, looks to be a bit of a logjam at first glance. Do we see them keeping 8 on defense? Adder can't be sent down, so he is likely a regular. or perhaps trade bait. And right now we're looking at York, Sanheim, Sealer, Drysdale, Zamula, Risto. Keep forgetting about him. Addard is he's in the situation Zamula was last year. He's no longer waiver exempt. And then they talked about bringing back Eric Johnson. It seems like they like this, like they did with Mark Stahl last year, just having a veteran who can come in and know what to do. He might stink. His best days might be well behind him, but he's going to know where to go, even if he can't get there all that quickly. They seem to like that. And then you look, like they still have Jennings, who's staying, and you got to believe he thinks he has a chance to make this team.
Right.
Emil Andre did make the team out of camp last year, and they could use some help on the power play. And then Hunter McDonald, I don't know how far away he is. I just know they fucking love him. They bring him up every chance they get. So they do have a ton of guys. My guess is they do go with 8 to start, and it is Eric Johnson or a vet in that role, and they kind of rotate the 8. But I'm also thinking Ristolainen could very well be traded. Maybe Igor Zamula is traded. He needs a contract. He's an RFA. Like, I think guys are going to get moved out of this decor, but they might start with 8. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, my biggest question marks are Zamula and Risto. I mean, I think like for Risto, I feel like especially if he's healthy to start the season, you want to play him because, like you said, well, I definitely want to use him as a trade bait later on down the line. And Zamula is tough, right, Bill? Because like he showed you glances throughout the season, but like it wasn't a great end to his season as well. And it's like he's shown you more bad than good. So it's just such a tough spot to kind of be put in. I do think that Eric Johnson will be used as kind of that veteran guy, but I think it's a good problem to have. I mean, like obviously, like I feel like York and Sanheim have kind of solidified their spots with the decor, but you have a lot of guys who have a lot of question marks in this group.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a huge season for Jamie Drysdale.
Yeah, dude.
I think it seemed like him and Nick Sealer were going to be a this makes sense to staple these two together, and then they played together, and it was a fucking disaster.
And Montreal happened.
So I don't know if that's the case. I don't know what the pairs are going to be. I don't know if the long-term plan is to keep York and Sanheim together. I want to see Sanheim stick on the right side because he just had the best year of his career playing there. I didn't like him when he played the left. Now I like him. I want to see him stay. Maybe, though, he's just good now, and he can play either side. Who knows? But they have bodies, but there's still a lot of questions at defense.
Yeah. Let me ask you from Drysdale, because obviously, listen, he showed a lot of glimpses. What do you need to see exactly from Drysdale this season? If there's one thing from Drysdale.
Obviously, we would like to see the defense get better, and maybe now an off season going through a camp, actually getting into like, okay, so what do we do in the defensive zone? Because it was completely different from what Anaheim was.
Right.
Like, he needs to get a little stronger. Obviously, that comes as you age. Like, you just get stronger. He's now getting into that, like, okay, I'm really an adult part of his, like, early, mid-20s. But more than anything, he needs to be a power play weapon. Like, this power play fucking stunk last year. They were a couple points out of the playoffs. You can't tell me if they're just middle of the road and not by far the worst, they don't make it. You know, there's just a couple of games where you score a couple of power play goals and boom, you're in the playoffs. He needs to do that. I need to see a ton of offense out of this guy because ultimately that's what he's going to be judged on. He's never going to be a shutdown defenseman. Like, that's just not happening. Hopefully he becomes adequate so you can play him in the top 4, but you need point production out of this guy. And the power play is so bad. He needs to be a big part of it.
It should be fun to see, man. I'm excited for Drysdale as well. Like you said, defensively is really where we want to see him make the improvements on. But I mean, I really want to see him, especially quarterback in a power play. I mean, we saw the skill set that he has, and it feels like that translates into good QB of a power play unit. So we'll see how he kind of, advances here in year 2. And
hopefully now, maybe if he and Michkov are out there together on the power play, now you have 2 kind of high-end offense, at least potential guys, and then you have shooters in whether it's Forster or Tippett, whoever it might be. Frost looked pretty good in the bumper. I think you can move him around, have him on the half wall, have him in the middle. I think they have the makings of at least a competent and not embarrassing like, that's the thing, is they could be better.
Yeah.
and still be in the 30s ranked. Like, you know, they were so much worse than everyone else last year that is like, oh, yeah, man, we made a drastic improvement. We're now ranked 30th instead of 32nd. Like, that's possible. I'm going to skip ahead to George Garcia, Bryn. That's what we're going to do next. Perfect. Thank you. After reading Shayna Goldman's top 10 players team should target with an offer sheet, would you be interested in going after either Anton Lundell or Thomas Harley? And this really got me thinking because, like, my thing all season up until he signed his extension, we got to go get Elias Pettersson. Got to do it. And now he's signed long term, so that dream is dead. And I hadn't really looked at the other guys who are offer sheet eligible. And Lundell, obviously recency bias. He just wins the Cup with Florida. We really like the way Florida plays. That's cool. He'll be 23 in October. He did score 18 goals as a rookie. I think that was Florida's run and gun kind of crazy offensive season. He's a center, but he's only put up like 33, 35 points the last 2 seasons. And nothing special there. Probably still more to be unlocked. They're a really good deep team. There's only so much ice time to go around. Only so much scoring that you can do.
Right.
He was the 12th pick 4 years ago. I am, like I said, all for offer sheets. Maybe they could take a swing and it ends up being a home run. But he doesn't seem to solve the 1C problem for me. And if you have to pay him and give up the assets, like he's a, if not top line center, at least really good 2C, and it's like a bunch of draft picks, and you have to give him this big contract that maybe, I don't know if it makes a ton of sense, but I do like IQ and toughness. And I do think this team needs more size and physicality. Like, just putting the depth chart together in my head, like, man, this team, a couple of years, might be really skilled and entertaining.
Yeah.
They might be really small too.
Yeah.
Like, I think they need to start targeting. I know, like, take the best players, but if it's a tie, take the bigger guy.
Yeah.
You know, like,
need some physicality.
If there's a 6-foot dude and a 6'3" dude, there's a 175-pound dude and a 205-pound dude, take the 205-pound dude. Just saying. But Thomas Harley, I hadn't thought about. He turns 23 in August. I'm kind of interested in this. 6'3", 205-pound lefty. Fills the size requirements I'm talking about. Good defenseman. Played 21 minutes a night for Dallas this past season. It was his first full year in the league. 47 points from defense, and only 9 were on the power play. So he's scoring at 5-on-5 on a pretty good clip. Stars, though, their cap situation is complicated, but I don't know. Like, I think they'd be able to match an offer sheet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to rip it out. Like, they have $16.25 million right now. Maybe they open up a couple more million if they buy out Ryan Suter. But Jake Ottinger's due an extension. I think they want to re-sign Matt Duchene. They have to replace Joe Pavelski. Wyatt Johnson's entering the last year of his entry-level contract, so he's going to need a big deal. But then you also, like Jamie Benn, this is his last year at $9.5 million. You got to believe that's going to come down considerably if they keep him. Like, so the Stars, they have some flexibility. I do wonder, though, considering all the other contracts that they have to give out, good problem to have. They have a lot of really good players. Like Stankoven eventually is going to need a deal. All these dudes. Maybe there's a trade there.
Yeah.
Maybe there's, rather than an offer sheet where you just have to give them a bunch of picks and maybe overpay a guy, you'll work out an actual hockey trade. I don't know what it would be. I'm sure Farabee would be a part of it. Maybe something, obviously some other things as well. But I am interested in seeing if they could maybe pursue Thomas Harley from the Stars.
Yeah, I mean, out of these two, I probably am looking more at Lundell than Harley. But with Lundell, I mean, because I think he has everything that I would like for this team right now. But like you said, I'm not trying to get in any bidding wars for any one of these players, to be honest with you. But I mean, the Harley one obviously is intriguing because of what the Star situation is, and you obviously still do need some. You're still looking for like that top end defenseman there too, and I don't know if he could exactly be that, but obviously he's got the production so far. These are very intriguing. These are some of the guys that I definitely would like the Flyers to go out and look for.
And all this said, like when I talk about offer sheets, and whenever I do, Charlie rolls his eyes because he says offer sheets don't happen, and they do now and then, but for the most part, there are no offer sheets. There probably won't be any. But if Danny goes out and tries to go against his stated plan and try to spend in free agency, even if they put Ryan Ellis on LTIR, like, they need to clear up the cap problem first. It's going to be very hard to give anyone any amount of money until you clear up what is a obvious issue with this team, the salary cap.
Yeah.
They're up against it right now.
That's why you're probably going to look at more so like the Sean Walker deals or those Garnett Hathaway deals.
All right, we have the last one now from Marshall Morrisal. And I like this question to wrap up. The Hall of Fame was announced today. I believe that this guy should be in. What do you think? Picture of Reggie Leach card. Oh, yeah, no. I wrote the note to myself. It's a picture of Reggie Leach. And I just read it like a stage direction. Turn left. No, it's Reggie Leach. Listen, I'm all for Flyers being in. Like right there, obviously, he set that record back at 76, scoring, I think it was 19 goals in 16 playoff games for the most ever in a playoff. Like, it would be dope. And Clarkson, Barber's in. It would be nice to have the third dude on that line. It would be cool. But I did want to just take a second to talk about two Flyers legends that got in. One, Jeremy Roenick, actually played for the team. And I know Jeremy Roenick is like a jackass. He just is. But you can't tell me he wasn't good for the game.
Right.
Like, he was fucking fun. He said dumb shit all the time.
He's a character out there.
And he scored some big goals for this team, man. Like, last time, like, he scored that overtime winner to beat the Leafs. He had some big moments in those 04 playoffs. I love Jeremy Roenick, and I just always go back to the day they signed him. They get Jeremy Roenick. I remember it specifically, coming home on 55 from the mall, from the Deptford Mall with my mom. And we're listening to WIP, and they announced that we got Jeremy Roenick. I see my buddy Frankie in his driveway, and I run out, and I literally jump into his arms.
No way.
And I'm like, we got Roenick. We got Roenick. And we thought we were winning the fucking Stanley Cup. And so I'll just always appreciate Roenick for that, even though, like, yeah, I know he's a jackass. But, like, that's also, like, his ridiculousness, that's part of what makes him a Hall of Famer. That's the name Hall of Fame to me isn't like, it's not the hall of whoever had the best statistics,
right?
Whoever had the most awards. Fame. The fucking stars. Jeremy Roenick was a star in this league. He was a personality that you knew in the league his entire career, and that's a Hall of Famer.
He had an impact on the league, man. Before recording, I actually did watch the Boris Smirnov slap shot he took on the jaw. I almost threw up.
Also, Flyers legend Shea Weber. He was a Flyer for 5 days. Before Nashville matched. I thought that was just funny. He got in first try. Like, international success, definitely. One of the best defensemen of his generation. Never came away with a Norris Trophy, though, and obviously didn't win a cup in Nashville or Montreal. First try, that was a little surprising to me.
Right.
I'm a big Hall guy. I think it's great, and I think Shea Weber's awesome, so good for him. But I was like, oh, first ballot.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. Considering especially, like, Jeremy Roenick had to wait forever. And you look at his stats, it's like everyone around him in the stat categories comparable is in. It's like he's the only one that doesn't have the asterisk. Like, okay. But he's in now. But, yeah, that was the Hall of Fame. But, yeah, Reggie Leach would be cool. All right, you got anything else before we wrap up today?
No, man, this was a lot of fun. Talking some Flyers, looking back down memory lane. And, listen, guys, it has not been fun. It has not been fun over the last 14 years. But we're hoping that this Michkov is just the ray of sunshine that we have.
We earned it.
Keep moving forward here. Got to keep adding some talent. But I think this team is definitely headed in the right direction, Bill.
All right, and that will do it for us today. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for coming out. Before we end, I got to remind you about Friday, South Philly Chickies and Pete's down on Packer Ave. It's our draft party and live show from 6 to 11 p.m. It's going to be a great time. It is the Michkov celebration in which the Flyers will also hopefully make some really good draft picks.
Yes.
That's what we're doing on Friday. Make sure you RSVP at allphly.com. Yeah, that's it. Also, sign up to be a diehard. There's so much great draft content.
Yeah.
Both Charlie and Alex Appleyard have been grinding away, man, watching tape, having conversations, all sorts of great content on allphly.com, especially if you're a diehard. So many benefits. All right, that's it. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you to our sponsor, Mortgage CS, proud to be brought to you by Mortgage CS each and every day. Make sure you're following us on YouTube. Hit that reminder so you never miss a live show. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast. Search PHLY Flyers, hit follow, boom, done. All right, my name is Bill Matz. That's JP Zapata. Stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.